It's okay, now we're recording. Jesus. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of AI Unscripted. We made it, guys.
Hey guys. Yeah.
This week we have a special guest joining myself, Roy, and Effie, as usual. And we have Adam Gold. Hi Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, very nice to meet you.
So, yes, it's great to have you here. We'd love to hear about your company. You're obviously in the AI business, working with data for developers. So we'd love to hear about how you're looking at AI at the moment and what your company's doing.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm Adam. I'm CEO of Keepso. Keepso is building agents for R&D teams. So you can think about people doing work today like on-call engineer, incident leader, Scrum Master. So we take this work and make it automatic for the R&D teams. All of that with the promise of accountability. So we don't want to 100% replace the people doing the work, but rather give them the tools to make the work much easier, but still allowing them and empowering them to have the full accountability and responsibility for this work.
Well, that's AI today, right? AI is not still replacing people. It's just giving them wider wings, right? To do stuff faster, more productive. And it's funny that you work in a field that a lot of people see as threatened by AI because it says, okay, we're building SaaS with Lovable and stuff like that. So you're like, we don't need front-end engineers anymore, right? So how do you combine the tools today with an industry that might be threatened about it? How do you with your clients?
That is super interesting because we can divide it into two, right? We have the code writing part of, okay, AI is going to write the code for us. Mm-hmm. But if we go back before AI, right? Software engineering is much more than just writing code. It's yes, you have the big chunk is actually writing the code, but you have so many more, we can start with the design, right? Like the architecture. We can talk about, as I said before, incidents. What happens when you have an incident? Troubleshooting. All of this, and there's much more, but all of this work is part of the work that a software engineer has to do and has always been able to do. And it is also work that can be automated with AI. So, we can talk about the future.
We'll talk about the future.
We'll talk. Are there going to be software engineers, or is going to be product managers doing engineering work? But all of this work still has to happen. It doesn't okay, computer writes code for us, so there's no more incidents, there's no more bugs. We still need to troubleshoot. We still need to design, to build architecture. So yeah, I think.
And I guess it's getting a lot more complicated as well. As AI comes into the picture, it's almost like you have this unknown worker, right? You don't have his CV, you haven't interviewed him, but all of a sudden he has access to all of your code, all of your data. And I hear examples of, obviously, you have data access to one person, but then it gets into an LLM for some reason, and then all of a sudden it's propagated across the whole platform, right? So Are you guys also working with this kind of thing?
For sure. So actually two things come to mind. The first one is the thing you mentioned about accessing the data. I've had many customers who were pretty much afraid to give us access to their code bases, right? Because that's their IP.
And proprietary. Yeah.
They're I don't want to give you read and write access to my GitHub because that's my whole company.
Yeah.
So that's one challenge that companies today need to tackle somehow. And the second one is a more technical challenge of, okay, now you have access to the data, and users you have end users who need to somehow get access to this data, but you can't let everyone see everything. You have to have some kind of mechanism and you said security to make sure that only the person that is that can access, can see this data on the original source can actually see this data after you process it with an LLM. I'll give a quick example, right? So let's think about the most basic example of a chatbot, just question answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have an internal chatbot within your company that you have employees asking questions. So I have an employee asking, hey, what happened in the executive meeting yesterday? And now, obviously, this employee wasn't there because he wasn't invited. He's not an executive. But we index this data in the LLM. So we allow the LLM to read it. And if we don't have any access control, then the employee is going to know, hey, like 20% of the company is going to get fired.
Right.
So yeah, that's like the two aspects that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's crazy because I'm encountering the same thing right now. I'm building the AI, and there's a couple layers of data in the platform. One of them is the user itself. One of them is the entire SaaS and the entire platform database. And you don't want him to ask questions and get another person's details. So it's basically access control with AI. And it sometimes feel like when you're connecting to AI, if you don't know what's working behind it, then you have this feeling that, hey, maybe I'm contributing my data to the LLM itself, right?
Yeah.
DeepSeek or to OpenAI. And it's scary. And I know that today developers are kind of divided by two. There are those who are like, yeah, I'm using Cursor, I'm using all the dev tools. And there are some who's like, I don't know, it's not yet there. I'm doing still everything by myself. So you gotta get those mixed also customers with your company, with your customer base.
Definitely. I think, I can make the analogy to other technologies as well, right? Like you have the big enterprises who are more afraid or take the extra step of like, okay, I need to make sure, like, we have all this certifications of like SOC 2 and stuff. Like we need to make sure that we can actually that we know that you are secure, and I know for sure that you're not training on my data, and also my users that are using your product are getting just the data that they need to get and nothing more. And then you have like the smaller ones who are like, okay, like whatever, like you can do whatever you want. But for sure, like I think this trust in AI is just starting to build, and that's part of the challenges in building it. And then an AI company does not just Keepso, but every AI company, you have to build this trust with your customer.
And scandals like DeepSeek are kind of taking it a setback, like one step behind, because like
what I find interesting is that your company, and again, correct me if I'm just looking at it from a business point of view, when you have to sell your product. So you have to kind of like play the balance between selling something that I want you to put trust in general, as Effie said, in AI, but also I'm not going to replace you. And I love that you chose the word accountable. Because I guess it's a good marketing also, because you make me, if I use your tool and I'm a developer or an engineer, I'm becoming more accountable of what I do. And also, it can save me time and make my work more efficient, but it's also hard to sell that like that, because what's the balance point between it's going to replace obviously some of what you do, even if it's mundane tasks. Just curious how people react to that, your customers, the people you approach, talk to.
Yeah, so that's a great question, because accountability actually came from a few customer conversations. Like it came from them. Like they said, we want our customer, like the buyer is mostly VP R&D, right? So it came from them saying like, we want our developers to be more accountable. We don't want them not to do this. We don't want them not to handle incidents. We want them to know how to handle incidents, how to do it better. But let's take the mundane tasks out of their hands, so they can actually focus on the more important thing and also be fully accountable. Like they have the full monitoring and visibility into what Keepso does. So they have the full accountability into, okay, like this is what has happened. I've done this, and Keepso has done that, but I know everything, and I'm fully accountable for like the work that has been done.
I felt a paradigm shift from, I think that now I understand how I can market any AI business that I will have in the future. It's about making you, and it's what the original marketing of laptops and computers used to be. It's about making you do better work.
Sure.
But accountable is removing a bit some barriers, I guess, that some people might have. Oh, that's really interesting to me. Really interesting. It's like AI to make you more accountable.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, right, everything's powered by data. The biggest models have the most amount of learnings. And then when you take it into an enterprise environment and you want to leverage your first party data, right, because that's how you're going to succeed eventually, people with the most data. How do you stop that from propagating across the whole network, getting out of the system even, and kind of just putting all that together? So we have data shift, we have data escape. It's like we're seeing this like ecosystem now all built around what we actually do with the data and how we control it essentially in a black box, right?
It's funny because now that you're talking about it, it's like, for me, it pops a new role. You remember we talked about what's the roles
New
with
titles.
the new AI.
Yeah.
So it's like a system sysadmin, right? Where you have in servers and everything. So sysadmin to keep data leakage, to keep data intact. The data structure inside AI. That's the person who will make sure that the board meeting will not leak to the average employee, right?
Yeah.
So it's in corporations, in enterprises, it's going to be departments, because you have a lot of different kind of access, a lot of departments, a lot of data running in there.
And if you're a public company, wrong information in the wrong hands.
Exactly, it can crush a company.
So
Wow.
when you're
right.
working with different kinds of companies, then, because you obviously you have an active platform, right? You're selling it. People can go to the website and get a demo or whatever. So all the different kinds of companies that you have, are all their needs kind of different, or do you see everyone has the same kind of need? Like, how are people approaching AI?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because we see a lot of different use cases, and that's why we built the platform in a way. So we have a no-code platform, so everyone can, like, we sell agents that we build ourselves, but also we give our users the opportunity and the possibility to change to like their unique needs, because we understand that processes are different in every organization, right? Like one incident response process is not the same in one organization, is not the same as in another organization.
Yeah.
So we give them the basics of like, hey, you can like just plug and play, it will work.
Yeah.
But in order to customize it to your own process that you've been running for years, right? You have the possibility within our platform to do the tweaks that will just make it work better for you.
And what kind of industries you see are like more into AI, like are bringing it in the most, trusting their data across their whole platform?
Yeah. So to be honest, currently I think FinTech.
Really?
Like, and I'm obviously I'm looking at it just from my own perspective.
Yeah.
Like I haven't dealt that much with non-tech companies, so I cannot speak about non-tech companies. But talking about tech companies, I think FinTech is really on the forefront of AI.
Because why do you think? What do you think that is?
I think regulation-wise.
Regulation, interesting.
I think there's so many mundane work that needs to happen, like in terms of, I don't know, documents and helping with all of this process of regulation. That I think that like FinTech, also healthcare as well. Same, right? Like
too much data.
It's funny because in my mind it should be the opposite, although I understand why, because FinTech and healthcare has the most sensitive data.
Yeah, that's right. They're usually the most kind of like regulated, so it's harder for them to do that jump.
Yeah, but then what he explains, they do have the most mundane task because of that regulation.
And also, you think about
paradox.
Finances, if you're working in the States, for example, you have 52 different states.
Yeah.
Is that right?
There's so many regulations.
Sorry, Trump.
But they have so many different regulations in each state and different users and different needs and KYC and all that kind of stuff.
That's
So,
product market fit. That's I get it.
And so what's the kind of most like exciting things you're seeing then? Are people like, is there a lot of like CI/CD stuff? Are you kind of working around that area or?
So actually, no. I think the most exciting thing is actually. Well, it's a good question. Depends how you define exciting.
What's exciting for you?
I think, so I'll tell you a story. I worked at Sneak. You know Sneak?
Of course, yeah.
That's the
security company, just for our listeners.
The dog.
Okay.
So back then, I really felt the pain of leading a project. Like making sure no one is blocked, making sure people know what to do, making sure the teams are aligned, making sure they know what they need to do, they know what other teams are doing in a cross-team project, right? So I would say that's the most exciting part for me when people use Keepso, when they can tell me, hey, like Keepso's actually helped me in getting my teams aligned, in unblocking people. So yeah, I think that's like.
So you built this for yourself, basically.
Oh, for sure.
You can be honest.
That's how it started. That's how Keepso started. Yeah,
really,
they would do some other things, but yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's kind of like was it Backstage from Spotify.
Yeah,
They built for
Spotify,
their
they
own.
built for
Yeah,
themselves,
yeah.
We've used Backstage.
It's also Slack, the story of Slack. Slack was built with the company for the internal team.
Yeah.
And then the company didn't work well. And the guy said, hey, we built something. Maybe we'll try it outside. And boom, Slack.
So I guess like Slack's kind of business model is very similar to yours, right? Selling to a lot of developers and information data kind of people. It's the same kind of crowd as Sneak, or?
I think Slack is more like bottom-up approach. Like, hey, like everyone can use it. Like they have a rule, right? If more than 3 people are using Slack, that's it. Yeah, like they're hooked.
Yeah.
And it works. So for us, it's less of a bottom-up approach because we tend to come from like the manager,
right?
That wants this work to be automated, that wants this work to be better, that wants their people to be better and more accountable, right? So, if we would have come from a developer, it would look differently.
So it's more enterprise sales, account-based management, and things like that.
Yeah, more.
And are you guys using a lot of AI tools around that process? And I mean, a lot of people are doing bottom-up sales with AI, but are you using that in your processes?
So I think just for like. So we're a small company, so we are trying to leverage AI as much as possible in an operative way.
He's answering cleverly. I like that.
Try not to be like diplomatic. I'm just being honest.
I'm kidding.
So look, we are trying.
Uncensored.
Yeah.
Yeah, uncensored. So we are trying to leverage AI as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I would say, first of all, we use a lot of AI for outreach, for like understanding who our leads are, enriching them, like getting as much data as we can about them, and then also actually making the outreach, like composing the messages and stuff. Yeah.
That's interesting. I want to hear more about how you're enriching your outreach with AI.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Also me.
Yeah.
So currently, the first step is we use Clay. So we use Clay with the AI functionality to gather the data and enrich the data. That's like, and we use it a lot. So that's the first thing.
Clay is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's such a good tool.
It's a really good. So I to be honest, I was skeptic about, and I'm an engineer, right? So like I don't write code a lot, but I used to be an engineer. And like I was skeptic about the only tables. Like, hey, you only get tables. That's what like. And my partner, like my co-founder, really liked it, and I was like, okay, well, fuck it, let's give it a try, right? Yeah. And it works really good.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we use Clay for this, and then I just use ChatGPT, Claude for composing, for writing, for generating the messages, seeing what works and what doesn't. Do we use something? I don't have anything else that comes to mind, but if I will, I'll let you know. Yeah,
you have everything just in Clay, right? All the data enrichment, outreach, and then I guess you get that into your CRM system, or you use Clay as a CRM.
We use that.
No,
just tying back to the few topics we discussed, like solopreneurs. So do you, you don't have to answer because you're a private company and everything, but are you bootstrapped right now?
Yeah.
And you're already selling the product, right?
Really?
Yeah, that's what I figured out from the website. And do you think it's because what we just talked about? You have the outreach,
I have to say we have a lot of VCs watch this channel.
Yeah.
So guys, come on, get on it. Why is this guy not got funded?
That's a good business. That's a good business, and also a good position to be if you choose to.
You solved your own problem. You're selling, doing revenue. You grew the team, bootstrapped it.
And he's
the market
young.
is huge. There's a lot of opportunities at the beginning.
And if you can afford Clay, you're making money.
And I want to connect what we just said to what you said before. You're not working bottoms up, but your product might start shifting towards the bottom up when developers will want to start working with you and go to their VP R&Ds and say, hey, we're doing much too much work. Let's use this to make our work more efficient, right?
That is true, but that's an interesting business conversation, right? Because does it happen organically, or do you have to make a strategy to make it happen? And to be honest, I believe that you have to make it has to be your strategy.
You answered it.
It's my view. I'm sure that other companies felt it somehow happen organically. But I don't know. In business, I believe
no, you're
that,
right.
I don't believe,
it's like you have to either wait and you see that shift happening, and then you react to it. But you can't just sit and wait on a business plan for something.
It's
like
like for
that
content creators when they post a lot of videos and one video pops and it blows up and has millions of views. It doesn't really mean that they succeeded, because it doesn't mean that the views are from the right audience and etc. So it's the same here. You say organically, but you need to navigate the organic. You don't just get it, organic and that's it, because you have very specific market. So you kind of I think answer it yourself.
Yeah.
It's not organic, and you want to start. I think, like in my opinion, start brand your product. And there was another company a long time ago, Soluto, I think.
Soluto.
They
Anti-frustration
They
software.
branded their own product for the end user, not for the buyer.
Yeah,
and they came from bottoms up because of that.
That's true.
Yeah.
And also, just so you know, you can start using your product right now. Go to the website, sign up for an account, pay, start using it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's amazing. And that's the way you do it. I mean, going to podcast, not doing the engineering yourself because you're the CEO.
I do some,
but I mean, convince the developers, the end user, hey, you want that. Go to your manager and get a demo for this product.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way you do that organically.
Yeah. So we did have some like a few I would say dozens or hundreds signups of like developers and even product managers coming from the website. But yeah, we didn't monetize on it. We didn't focus on it. Our focus currently, as because what I said before, this is our strategy and this is what we focus on, is going to the upper management and selling to them.
And kind of you have the product now, right? And obviously we wait for things to change before we happen. What's your kind of dream of where the world is going with AI, and where does your product sit there?
That's a good question.
Which I have to say, somewhat figured out for him, not for us, for him.
So in terms of where the world is going in terms of AI, I'm just gonna talk about development, not the whole world. Although we can also have this conversation.
No, that's great.
Whatever you want.
I think that. So I don't see. Okay, so I'm gonna divide it into two parts, right? So the existing companies, the enterprises of the world, they're not gonna fire developers in masses. Developers are still gonna keep their jobs. As I said before, there's so much work around coding that needs to be done still, and AI still cannot do it. It will be better in the future for sure, but it still needs to happen. So I think we will see a shift from pure engineering work to more around engineering work.
Massaging, kind of just making sure all the processes kind of work together.
One developer is talking to Claude, the other is massaging his back.
Someone said new titles. New titles.
But it can even be product work. We have the term product engineers now, which is a new term. But honestly, I don't know what will happen, but I'm kind of positive that this shift will happen. Either product engineering or architects, design, and just talking about the enterprises though. The other part is the new startups. The ones that are beginning now to create the product. They're going to be much leaner, and I know you've talked about it in previous episodes. You don't have to have that many engineers.
Well, you're kind of talking now about that shift over to full development never happening. I think you're right. And I think, things like DeepSeek, for example, right? This was the first time that we thought, wait a minute, they're not exactly honest, so do we trust our data? Do we trust just our whole GitHub repo with a platform that we don't know to some LLM? I think probably that's never gonna really happen, right?
Really, I agree.
I wouldn't say
because
never.
you don't know who's controlling it. Is it someone in China? And nothing against China. I'm just using it with the geopolitics today. I grew up in Hong Kong, but
I don't know. But look at Alexa.
Yeah.
You just put for years, right? You put Alexa and the other devices in your house, and you're not really obviously many people are worried about it, but a lot of people don't think about it.
Right? Well, I had this conversation with someone the other day. You know why I don't think about it? because I'm carrying a phone about in my pocket 24/7 that
Exactly.
tracks and knows
and
everything.
it's not about
I'm doing.
us,
Yeah.
and it's not about us. It's about the younger generation that will grow up with the technology. Will not think about it as well.
Yeah.
So, and we drive Chinese electric cars, right? And
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
we're talking about consumers though. I think developers have a slightly higher IQ
Well, but
than
I want-
the average Joe on the street. So I think they're more, not that they have a higher IQ. That's wrong.
higher
saying.
More
prone to use these
they
tools.
just know what's happening backstage.
They're more technologically
Yeah.
aware.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. Yes.
my 12-year-old daughter is not going to think, okay, I'm going to turn my phone off now, or but you know, a developer will think before handing over his
So-
API key or login credentials to GitHub, right?
It's Apple and Android for you. I mean, you have some people who are like, oh, I like my information mine, I like my GUI mine, I like mine, you know, I like it open source, I like that, I want to change, and the other will say, I don't care.
That's
So
what's going
this
to
is the
happen.
point.
Yeah.
So
you're
this
right.
is the point. So, and I know a lot of people talk about open source being the future of AI, right? So probably this is one of the big reasons why.
I don't know. I don't know about, like, I know there are a lot of people think about it, but my opinion, I don't think so. There's always going to be companies trying to catch the code as much as they can for themselves. I know Sam Altman is saying, oh, maybe we needed to do it differently, but no, it's just saying
His
that for
open
PR.
AI project
I
is.
mean, it's
open.
just PR after DeepSeek.
Elon wants to buy him now, I read. Sorry.
Sorry, what?
I read that Elon wants to buy him now.
Wanted. No, you read what he did? It was
Elon Musk
crazy.
wants to buy Microsoft?
No, OpenAI.
Sam
OpenAI
Altman.
is owned by
Elon
Microsoft.
Musk approached with a bunch of the investors to Sam Altman and offered $97.5 billion to purchase OpenAI. So Sam Altman tweeted back, no, thank you, but if you want, I can buy X for $9.75 billion.
Yeah.
So that's
Bro,
like,
Altman. I
was
love
crazy.
trolling the trolls.
Honestly.
So what do you think about what do you think about? I guess you're seeing a lot of the concerns that big businesses are having. Are they looking more at the open model? Are they looking at on-prem kind of?
I remember this
Solutions.
argument from a while back.
So I think that it really depends. Like I've heard many customers like really want to like have their on-prem solution, have the model just run a model run within their architecture. And that's not to say they want their own model, right? They want a generic model just within their own architecture. But I do think that, like, obviously time will tell, but I think that we're going to see more and more people giving more trust in generic models, not on-prem. But with that being said, I still think that we're going to see a lot of on-prem usage of models just because, as you said, Joe, like, developers maybe as consumers, they're going to be more aware, but enterprises are definitely going to be more aware, right? Because they really care about their data. So yeah, I think this is where like on-prem is really going to be the thing, and not custom models. That's my.
But I think that touches something you said before when you divided the world with two, like enterprises and then lean startups that's starting lean and using it. Those startups now will be the enterprises of the future, and because they grow up on the use of AI and lean teams, they're not going to be like the enterprises of today that grew up on on-premise servers and then went on moving.
But history repeats itself. I think that's what you said with Google and the open source. I had a thought like, is it going to happen again, but with new names? I don't know, OpenAI and Claude, let's use. One is going to be closed garden. It's going to prove that hardware and software or LLM with its own data source is better. It's again.
Who's going to be the Steve Jobs of AI?
Yes.
That's what I want
Sam
to see.
Altman is
You
already
think Sam
the
Altman?
Steve
Yeah,
Jobs
you
of
think
AI.
so?
He is. He's a character.
Well,
he's good at giving speeches.
He's good at understanding incremental value,
Exactly.
right? I was right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he knew how to brand himself as the leader.
He reminds me of Zuckerberg too much. But I like
I
Zuckerberg.
can't see him in all black.
Two Jewish boys.
In his,
Yeah, I did. Yes, exactly.
so I wonder when it comes to kind of like the enterprise thing, that's really what would you say to people then that aren't thinking about the data, that aren't kind of moving to that shift? Would you recommend them more on-prem? Would you recommend open source, like tools to protect the data? What should be the approach for, people managing big systems?
I think that like first and foremost, I would say engineering. Like use whatever model that you want. You can use open source if you feel more comfortable with. You can use in a closed source. You can use on-prem, but like build the engineering around it in the proper way that it doesn't matter what model you use. Don't because you've engineered it correctly, that data is not exposed, that data is not being trained on, that the wrong data is not given to the wrong people. Like once you build the guardrails, whatever model you use, like agnostically, you can be more confident in feeling, okay, I'm safe. I can even like switch models. I can try one and then switch and then like go on, like it's a lot of work, but go on-prem, then go open source, then go to another one, see the different like, against benchmarks, like compare all of them, but agnostically to which model I use, I know that I'm safe.
Yeah. And then when you have kind of like all these microservices and multi-tenancy and all that kind of stuff as well, all of this like mashup of things interacting with each other, I think it's good to have a black box. Definitely, we like the magic, the sexiness of being behind the curtain, but at the same time, you want to control the black box, right? You want to keep the genie in the bottle, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's that. I was thinking the same thing. It's going to be very easy with agents and stuff happening automatically to not lose control of the company and the flow of the product.
Yeah.
And when you're doing things manually, you have more control because you know what happens. Yeah. But when, let's say, for example, I'll take an example. Let's say Monday is now becoming, an agent, an AI agent, and it looks at the code and it sees when there's changes, and it closes tasks automatically and moves them and nobody, maybe it will pop up a notification or something like that, but after a while you get lost in the notification, right? Yeah. So you kind of lose control of the work. Yeah. You work, but then you look at on Monday and you go like, where am I?
Yeah.
And it's going to be and I don't think there's a solution for that right now.
You're right. And I think when we're using things like Lovable as well, right? It's like you give prompts and then you forgot already 15 prompts, 20 prompts backward, and that's you controlling it, right? Yeah. So just think you have this autonomous system updating you, but do you know where you really are with all of this?
Yeah, there has to be some kind of orchestrator, right?
Yeah.
There will be some kind of orchestrator.
Another job for AI.
There we go. Lovable.
Jobs
Build
here.
me a web app that will act as an orchestrator.
Write down in the comment if you need another job.
Now do the authentication. It crashed.
You were about to say something?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. I was saying like there has to be some kind of there will be some kind of orchestration. I think Mondays is like it's kind of where they aim for, right? Like the work OS, and they just today like published their AI agents and their AI functionality, which does basically what you said.
Yeah, that's what they're claiming to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing, but then who controls it?
Yeah. So I think like they're gonna, I don't know if they already have it, but they're gonna have like visibility functionalities, visibility monitoring, so you can see what happens. There's a term called human in or on the loop, like human on the loop, human in the loop, which means yes, the AI does things for me, but I can intervene in any moment and say approve or deny or change things. Or
that's the title of the episode right there, human in the loop.
Human in the loop.
Okay. Well, it is.
Look to the camera and
when you think about the sentence, a human in the loop, it's more important than we just give it like importance, because human in the loop, what happens when humans are out of the loop?
Well, it's actually, it's
never.
It's even more than that, right? It's like
that's the human ego thing.
Exactly.
Ego.
We spoke the last time about controlling data, right? Not controlling, but kind of like making it forget things. And now it's actually now it's controlling. It's the ranch, it's the fields, it's the fences. It keeps the AI in its place, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a crucial part of everything.
I really connected to what you said about you're model agnostic. And let's be honest, if we're talking about ChatGPT and Claude, we're talking about language models. Yeah. Basically, a layer. I thought about it. This is the new stack with AI, the new tech stack. You have, as Effie said, AI agents above it. And then small part of it is the LLM that knows how to communicate and interface with a basic natural input language or something like that, or scour tons of data. But it's just a small thing in the stack. You can replace it. You can buy it from another company. You can train it better.
You have AWS right now or Amazon.
Yeah,
they have
that's what I heard.
They have
Yeah.
a couple of new different LLMs at the same place, so you can connect to all of them. So there's a new service.
It's so hard keeping up with all the different models, actually.
Yeah.
Don't you find every day it's a different one?
Yeah, I've heard a podcast with Notion CEO who said that they were playing for years with training their own model because they have like infinite amount of data, right?
Yeah.
And still, after I think 2 years or 3 years of working on their own models, he just said, like,
OpenAI.
OpenAI.
Yeah.
Let's go OpenAI.
Yeah, because that's I get it.
Yeah.
And I think like that's where we're going. Like we're going to a place where we have like, yes, we're still gonna have so many models.
Yeah.
But people are like most companies, most enterprises are gonna use like generic models. Again, like I'm not talking about on-prem or not. They're gonna use generic models, but then have another layer on top of it that either brings the right context, does the security part, like it doesn't have to be one layer, but okay, we have the generic layer and then we have every like proprietary things that we need to do for our own data. So
it's almost like a firewall, right, between you and your model.
if we're
like
talking
between,
security, then yes, but also you have like context relevance, which is not security. It's just like making sure that everything, like the generic model brings me the right results. So like a layer of security, a layer of contextuality.
Because I think developers also have this thing where they want to control everything, right? So they won't use ChatGPT. They'll, even though it's not a lot of money, they'll hate to pay for it. They'd rather have something like Llama, hosted by themselves, so they can control every kind of like aspect of it.
Interesting.
And I wonder, I think kind of a big part of OpenAI and the kind of new school approach, I think, to development is more about letting go, right? So you give your whole CI/CD stack to GitHub or whatever it is. You give your LLM model to OpenAI or whatever it is. And the gains from that, the efficiency, right, and not controlling that is just like huge. And, like the CEO of Notion, he tried building his own. It reminds me of Mobileye. You spoke about them the last time. And I remember they opened up a development headquarter. I think it was in
Brazil,
Cologne.
In Israel. Okay.
They had 7 or 8 different developers just working on AI vision modeling for 3 years at a cost of something like $7-8 million. And then Google just released their free open vision platform, and it was just like, you just wasted all that money. So I think it's kind of like that. It's like, you're not going to build your own LLM, Notion, anyone.
And when you speak about, you all say something about how developers look at it, but developers are a small, very, very, very tiny segment of the population. And the majority will go to what they know. It's like Google when it started. It's like everybody went to Google. Now everybody's going to OpenAI. I don't think a lot of people are going to Llama, by the way.
But it's kind of like,
it's Claude and OpenAI.
But when YouTube came out, right, and everyone said, okay, we've democratized creation now. Now everyone can be a content creator. Maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite because we have a podcast, but it didn't really happen in the way. There's still Netflix, there's still mainstream studios. So is Lovable really going to be this thing where everyone just builds their own apps, or the big software companies, like vertical SaaS solutions? I don't see them getting replaced by.
I don't know if it's lovable, but I know that Bolt, with their funding and their MRR, they have a lot more power to do that. And they're also not like Lovable. I love Lovable, but Lovable is a complete front end solution. If you go to Bolt, they're already trying Nest and all kind of also like mixed back end. And all kinds of different languages.
No, Lovable have integration with Supabase.
But I'm talking about developing a backend, not just working with
just connecting to a backend. Okay, right.
And they're running towards that. Once they'll have that, I can't see people that can do that. They need to know how to do that. Again, you need to be a prompt engineer. You need to have an architect kind of state of mind.
So we're the consumer developers, right? What are
you'll have product managers doing development, as you said
here's
before.
the question: what are developers using? They're not using Lovable, right? They're not using Bolt.
Exactly.
Cursor?
So we have to make
Cursor, really?
this distinction, right? Like we have Lovable, which is like completely B2C. Like you rarely see developers within organization using Lovable, right?
There's not a team of Google engineers somewhere working on Lovable.
Not yet.
I'm sure
I
there
want
is.
to build a web app that searches the internet.
That is awesome because the market is big enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We have GitHub Spark, which is not publicly available yet, I think.
Okay.
But honestly, I'm not sure if it's gonna go to more like B2C or B2B. But I think like developers in organizations are more inclined to using things that help them rather than just do the work.
Got it.
And for that, yes,
Yeah,
Cursor, Copilot, GitHub Copilot.
Oh, I heard
Is Copilot good?
Many more.
Because I know a lot of people use it in beta, and now we're
mixed
way
feelings
past
about
there.
it.
But it's like before, it's
Yeah.
kind of like an autocomplete, right? It's no different from me going to GitHub and getting someone else's like library, or whatever it is. It's like kind of a bit more like that, or it's
I can talk from personal experience. Like, it is awesome.
yeah. Is it a junior developer on your shoulder, or is it
It's-
actually?
I would say it's just like it is helping. It's not a junior developer on your shoulder because a junior developer on your shoulder just it
Slows you down.
It slows you down in a good way. Like
Good point.
you
In a good
you want
way.
to be- you want to be slowed down.
You know
because-
he's training a junior developer at the moment in a good way.
No, but you're okay, Pete. You're okay.
I said 2 sugars and milk.
But it is
I'm
enterprise. Those are enterprise features because you need to be a developer to work with them. I tried, for example, Gemini with Firebase. And it's kind of the same like GitHub Copilot. It's like you're going in and you're like, how do I do that? And it goes like, you do this and this and this and this. And I was like, I don't know how to do that.
Can you
And then
do
you
that
go
for
to
me?
Lovable and like, do this for me. And it's, that's it.
Interesting. Different target audience.
Yeah, because you like in Lovable you don't have anything to start with. Like it just like
Yeah.
gives you something.
Yeah.
In enterprises, you have to be a part of a bigger system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for that, you need to understand the system too. So
That's right.
it just helps you. It gives you something. Like it gives you like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40% of the beginning, and then you build on top of it. And then you ask a question. So
Yeah.
it works well.
No, I didn't think. Sorry.
No.
I didn't think about it this way, like Lovable and Bold being B2C. So
Yeah,
they're
me too.
B2C. They're actually B2C.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
it's-
I heard it from what you
Yeah,
said, and
yeah.
then
And here was me and Effie thinking we're senior developers.
Junior.
I hate it we're out
I'm a
of
junior
time.
developer.
I hate it
Two
we're out of
sugars.
time because I also heard about this tool called Devon. I've mentioned it a few times, and I heard that in the valley, so to speak. This is one example of a tool that developers and engineers are actually seeing as something that can replace some of them. But we don't have a lot of time to open it up. Again, great conversation. Wow.
Yeah, well,
wow. Time flies.
flew by
wow.
so
Yeah.
quickly. Each episode gets quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
Adam,
I
thank
think
you
we need
so
to make
much.
it More.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to just, before we close down, do our usual.
Yeah.
What did we get from the conversation? It's kind of like, next episode we'll have a skull, and only the person that's holding the skull gets to speak. This is our therapy. This is
Have
us
the
closing
microphone
down.
here.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. Monkey.
So
I'll
right,
start.
go for it.
Yeah, for me, definitely it was the shift that I felt towards more of the business marketing point of view, which is to find a balance of an accountability and productivity instead of disruption, which is something you mentioned in our talks before the episode. So yeah, kind of looking at AI differently and also taking the stack. Like a model is just a part in the stack.
Yeah.
Yep.
For me, it was just what we said right now about Bold and Lovable being B2C. And it kind of hit me right now that we're still in a phase that developers are not affected by it directly, but entrepreneurs are. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you can have like a micro SaaS being built with a fraction of the price because you can do most of the front end and then you just connect it to Superbase. And maybe if it's not enough, you're going to pay someone to connect it to ClickHouse because you need a lot of data. But developers building enterprise solution, it's like a complete different world. So it's like Elementor and WordPress for website developers versus Python and
Good
for
point.
enterprises, right?
Good point.
So that's what I think I took from it.
Awesome. I really like the division into layers that we did. I think it wrapped my head around like, okay, we have like different layers of like generic models, and then you have the security, and then you have the contextual layer, and you can have as many layers as you want. But like that's probably how the future is going to look like. I really like this concept that we've talked about, and also we've talked about we've talked briefly about universal income, which we didn't have time, but it is a super interesting topic that I would love to.
But for now you're postponing it because you let people keep their jobs for now.
It's an interesting geopolitical issue.
Love to have you again.
I think the thing that I got out of it is just actually around this. I think the developer job is safe, having spoken to you. I think one of the things I didn't realize, and every episode I'm understanding more and more, that the power of the data is even more powerful than the model, right? And the first thing you have to do is you need to protect your data. That's like the moat of your business and your code. And doing that shift and that movement over is going to be very hard for a lot of people.
Gaining data and protecting data is what's going to build you in this future. Yeah, that's what we need to do.
So guys, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us for another episode of AI Unscripted. And we'll see you again next week.
Thank you. Comment, share, and subscribe.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.